No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Should Hollywood make a sequel to one of the most hilarious, beloved, and popular comedies of all time, Three Amigos? No. But you know they want to, because let's face it, Hollywood has been creatively bankrupt for quite a while now, and any franchise with even a hint of nostalgia is ripe for exploration. Exploration. To be perfectly honest, for a number of years, I've wondered quietly to myself and confided in close friends that I've always been curious what a Three Amigos sequel might look like. Well, I shall wonder no more, for against my better judgment, today we're going to make a case for why Three Amigos could work as a sequel. We'll examine what made the original so great, theorize how that same energy could power a follow-up, who would be in such a movie, and what the plot would be. I would say we have a plethora of clips to watch and points to make, so... Directed by John Landis and released in 1986, Three Amigos is a Western comedy starring Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Martin Short as Lucky Day, Dusty Bottoms, and Ned Niederlander.
I thought we were quite good in it.
Good? We were great.
Why don't you tell the boys about the Cochise picture, Morty?
The plot takes place in 1916 and follows three silent film stars who, after being fired from their studio, travel to the small Mexican village of Santo Poco under the impression that they've been hired to perform a live show.
Look, boys, I know show business. Something always turns up. Telegram for the Three Amigos.
In reality, they were summoned by a desperate villager named Carmen to defend the town against a ruthless bandit leader, El Guapo, and his gang. Mistaking the real-life threat for a choreographed movie set, the actors eventually realize the danger is real and must find the courage to become the real heroes they previously only portrayed on screen.
Come on. Oh, great! Real bullets!
Oh, well. I'll keep this.
The main cast were all comedy A-listers. In 1986, Steve and Chevy were already huge comedy stars. Steve did The Jerk in 1979, which was a huge success.
He hates these cans! Stay away from the cans!
And All of Me earlier in 1986, which was critically praised.
Fix ball. You put Edwina back in ball. Edwina, back in ball. Go fix ball. Go.
And by this time, Chevy was on his second vacation movie.
A thing of glory for 1,000,000 future generations to see. And we were here.
Three Amigos was Martin Short's first film, having done successful tenures for both SCTV and SNL.
Thank you, sir. It's very nice being here.
Mr. Quigley, this is Ed Grimley.
Hello. We've been having the most pleasant chat, I must say.
Thank you, Denise.
I watched Interspace a lot when I was a kid. It was both funny and interesting from a sci-fi perspective. Also, Alfonso Arau, who plays the bad guy, El Guapo, eats all the scenery and is infinitely quotable in this movie.
El Guapo only kills men. He does not kill crying women.
Jefe gets some great lines too.
Would you say I have a plethora of piñatas? A what? A plethora. Oh, yes. You have a plethora.
There are so many good bits in Three Amigos. Right at the top of the movie, to set up the plot, there's the boys meeting with Mr. Flugelman, played by Joe Mantegna, with his studio lackeys hilariously portrayed by fellow SNL alum Phil Hartman and John Lovitz.
What did he say?
He said, "That'll be the day, Mr. Flugelman."
What?
No dough, no show.
Boys, let me just say one thing. It'll be a cold day in hell when Harry Flugelman lets an actor tell him what to do.
There's Lucky trying to stay low-key while signaling the others that the coast is clear.
Oh! Hey! Hey! You two! You two! Look! Ha! Ah! Whippoorwill! Whippoorwill! Look up here! Look up here! Look up here! Ha! Hey! You! Look! Ha! Up here! Up here! Up here! Whoop! Whoop! Ha! Ha! Go! 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 Hey, you guys!
Everything that happens in the bar, it's timeless. I think one of my personal favorites is when Ned shares his career with the little Mexican kids.
One time, Dorothy Gish was visiting me on the set of Little Nettie, Grab Your Gun. And she came up to me, and she looked me in the face, and I'd never met her. I'd just known her from the films, you know, Dorothy Gish, Lillian's sister. And she looked me in the eyes, and she said, "Young man, you have got it." And
Keep in mind, Carmen didn't even understand that what she was watching wasn't even real. It was fiction. It's 1916, and these kids they're probably not wealthy and probably have never even seen a film, let alone know who the hell Ned is talking about. It's when the Amigos essentially go into exile that the film really dials in the charm. The film takes a minute to breathe, but still finds some laughs to sneak in. The Invisible Swordsman, I mean, come on. There's something noteworthy about the end of the camping scene in The Invisible Swordsman. I've had a semi-serious theory for a while now that possibly in an early version of the script or filming, the Amigos either purposefully or accidentally ingest some peyote, which is why they see the animals singing and why they hallucinate the Invisible Swordsman in the first place.
he's dead, all right.
How was I supposed to know where he was? You were supposed to fire up. We both fired up. It's like living with a 6-year-old.
It's just that, while silly, everything else in the movie is plausible. There's no magic or anything involved with the plot. I suspect maybe a studio executive or somebody thought it might be too close to abusing or glamorizing drug use and wanted to keep a more family-friendly audience. I also quote the dungeon scene to myself whenever I'm trying to do anything difficult, be it in real life or in a game or something. The story has good pacing, and the arc of the Amigos is satisfying. They begin as shallow, selfish, self-absorbed movie stars and grow to care for the mistreated, simple, yet friendly populace of Santo Poco, and find true reward in helping the less fortunate, for real instead of make-believe. The film has stood the test of time and is held dearly in the hearts of millions. What would a sequel look like? In my version, we would embrace the passage of time in the real world and translate it to the movie universe. Just like in real life, 40 years have passed since the events of the original film, putting us in the year 1956. Lucky, Dusty, and Ned are all in their 70s and live a somewhat comfortable retirement, their careers having slowly faded out with the advent of talkies. The movie opens up with the three of them meeting for lunch. They've all had interesting and full lives, but still meet at least once a year to reminisce about the adventure down in Santo Poco all those years ago. This provides a nice segment for any number of comedy bits for what each of the boys have been up to for the last 40 years. You could have some meta humor about how Dusty Bottoms is hard to work with. They express a bittersweet sadness about not being in the limelight anymore and lament it ain't what it used to be. But, lurking behind an open newspaper at a nearby table, we see a man eavesdropping on the conversation. His ears perk up at the mention of El Guapo. He pulls a picture out of his wallet. It's a portrait of the old bandit warlord. He flips it over. On the back, in Spanish, it reads, "To my beloved nephew, there is nothing in this world but lead and silver. Choose wisely." They exit the restaurant and wait for their chauffeur to pick them up. From seemingly out of nowhere, the mysterious man suddenly approaches them. The boys assume it's yet another overzealous fan or reporter and ask if he wants an autograph. He says, "Actually, I've got something for you," and slow motion reaches into his jacket. We get close-ups of the scared look on the boys' faces, and the man pulls out a script. It's his idea for a Three Amigos revival film. It's called Amigos Right Again. With the right writer, it's another opportunity for some sharp meta-humor commentary, and we can poke fun at Hollywood's penchant for lazily exploiting old franchises. He reveals he's the nephew of the infamous El Guapo.
The infamous El Guapo.
What does that mean, infamous?
Oh, Dusty. Infamous is when you're more than famous. This man, El Guapo, is not just famous, he's infamous.
In spite of his family's past, he is an avid movie fan and yearns to be an actor. For the rest of the movie, we follow in their efforts to secure funding, write a script, and do everything they can to get the movie made. The bad guy of the film is Harvey Flugelman, the son of Mr. Flugelman from the first picture, who is still head of the studio with all the rights to the Amigos movies, and who holds a grudge against the trio for becoming even more famous and beloved after disrespecting his father. He badmouths the project and tries everything in his power to prevent the movie from happening. The trio rediscover their joy of performing, and the newest Amigo redeems his family name and fulfills his long-shot dream of becoming a Hollywood actor. Finally, for a title, I was thinking either Four Amigos or upcycling this bit.
Ned, Dusty, sewing. Remember our film Amigos, Amigos, Amigos?
And calling the film Amigos, 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 which I just think is funny.
Gee, do you think it could work?
Casting the fourth Amigo. The role of the fourth Amigo requires someone who can match the original trio's comic timing, physicality, and deadpan delivery while feeling like a natural extension of the group. The character should be younger, I'd say 30s or 40s, and bring fresh energy without overpowering the veterans. So who do I think would be great? Fred Armisen.
You're stealing, right to jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail. You're charging too high prices for sweaters, glasses. You right to jail. You undercook fish, believe it or not, jail. You overcook chicken, also jail. Undercook, overcook.
His SNL background gives him the same sketch comedy foundation as the original Amigos.
Think you should go home now, Devin.
There's nothing going on, Stuart.
You should go home. Get back on San Vicente, take it to the 10, then switch over to the 405 North and let it dump you out into Mulholland where you belong.
Armisen excels at precise, understated physical comedy and can play both eager fanboy and reluctant hero.
And what are your feelings on Miss Thatcher?
I like her. A really sweet face, willing to make the hard choices. I respect that. I think she's a... Oh, wait. It's the Prime Minister you're talking about. Be decent.
At 48, he is slightly older than the ideal range, but he'd be passable for late 30s, and his deadpan style would pair especially well with Martin Short's manic energy and Chevy Chase's laid-back smugness.
Miguel, yo soy su amigo. Tú eres mi amigo. Ella es su amiga. Nosotros somos amigos.
He also has some tasty musical chops, which leaves room for a musical number in the spirit of My Little Buttercup.
Something like Velvet Underground was kind of like... Going down the boulevard with the flower. That kind of thing, right?
Honorable mentions and possible alternatives include Bo and Yang.
Well, everyone's talking about me. No one's talking about the water. What did the autopsy say? They iceberged? No, they drowned, bitch. That's not me.
Or Nick Kroll, I think, would bring funny energy.
So, Chupacabra, what brings you by the station?
Well, for me, it's something very interesting to come and see how the white people do radio.
Learning anything?
Yes, I have learned. You do white person radio, you end up on the internet.
Kind of true.
Yes. But you can visit them on their website at 103.1.com.
.com.
Yeah. .com/White Person Radio _alternative comedy.
I think the fourth Amigo, being 30 or 40 years younger than the others, would help to connect to younger audiences while keeping the original three front and center. Who do you think would be good in the role? Let me know in the comments. And remember, these casting suggestions are all just lighthearted fun and food for thought. No women, though. Chevy Chase has repeatedly and publicly stated his desire for a reunion. In late December 2025, during a live appearance in Richmond, Virginia, he directly said that he would love a Three Amigos sequel and suggested a reunion with Steve Martin and Martin Short on their Hulu series, Only Murders in the Building. He has made similar comments in recent years, including on the WTF with Mark Maron podcast, emphasizing how much he misses working with them. So that's one down. What about the other two? They haven't said much, but also haven't ruled it out publicly. The biggest obstacles are practical and reputational. All three actors are now in their late 70s and early 80s. Any action sequences would need to be scaled back and played for comedy rather than spectacle. Chevy Chase's public image has been damaged by past controversies and reports of difficult behavior on sets, which could make studios hesitant. Hollywood is in the middle of a well-documented sequel and reboot fatigue. Audiences are skeptical of legacy comedies that feel forced. So, should Hollywood make a sequel to Three Amigos? Absolutely not. Even if they made what I presented just now, and it was mildly successful, and it made money, it would never, to me anyway, spiritually connect to the original and would not have the same magic or charm. And to me, that would kind of cheapen the memory of what is otherwise a perfect singular performance. Like, Happy Gilmore came out less than a year ago, and we've all moved on. Do you think people are going to be quoting Happy Gilmore 2 30 years after it was made? Yeah, me neither.
Don't worry on that one, dipshit.
And by the way, if you're a writer or producer or whatever and want to option this idea off of me, I'm game and have very reasonable rates.
I want 150,000. But we can start out of court right now for $20. Man, get your punk ass up.